send it up, I send it through, send it right back to you. Oh. Hey, how's it going? I'm Yomi, and you're watching my channel. So today we're just gonna chit chat. So basically what I wanted to do, since I am, I don't know, an intermediate beginner, I don't know, but I wanted to talk about things that I have learned starting crochet, or things I've learned since I've started crocheting. And if you really think about it, I don't really think I'm a beginner. So long story short, I started crocheting when I turned 30, so around April is when I really started, and most of my crocheting was done at work. So if you take 40-hour weeks, not 365, those are the days, duh. If you take 40-hour weeks, 52 weeks, and you multiply that, that's about 2,000 hours that I have put into the craft. So more or less, that's a lot of time, and a lot of things that a lot of time I've invested in learning about crocheting. Wow, it's wild, right? But while we sit here and chit chat and talk about things, I'm actually working on this sweater. This sweater is a pretty long-standing project. Basically, this is what I have so far. We gotta get up to 50. Guess how many we have now? 6. So we're gonna be here. I'm not gonna finish the whole project with you guys watching, oh gosh. But while we're chatting, I'm just crocheting something. And oh my gosh, I don't know if I've shown you this yarn before, but look how freaking cute this yarn is. Good gracious, it is so cute. Like, because this yarn is so thin, look at how thin that is. I started double jointing it so it's not so see-through. So this is what I have by double stranding it. Let me bring it in close. There you go. That's what I have from double stranding. But yeah, there are a lot of things I've learned from crocheting and just learned about the process, working with yarn, and just with patterns in general. And the very first thing I would say that I have learned, and it has cost me a lot of projects at times, tension. Good grief. There are some projects, like some amigurumi projects, you don't really need to be too concerned with tension. Like for these guys over here, I didn't need to be so concerned with tension. But with amigurumi projects, what you have to realize is that if you have a little bit too much tension, what tends to happen is that the stuffing, this one, not really a great example because I had great tension for this project. This is the second time that I've done it. So for this project in particular, I wasn't completely loose with the tension, but I also wasn't holding back. So you might be able to see it here, that you can kind of see a little bit of the stuffing coming through. Not really, but I feel like here there was a little bit more tension to be had there. So I say all this to say, with some amigurumi projects, tension kind of doesn't matter. But with more flat projects, like something like this, tension matters a bit. Because what happens is, if you have too little tension, what tends to happen is that your project can be bigger than what it really is. If you have too much tension, it can get bigger than what you want it to be. Well, actually smaller, because you're pulling on the stitches a little bit more than if you have less tension. It tends to be a little more fluffier, a little bit more malleable if you have not a whole lot of tension. So one thing that I literally had to learn the hard way, because I was working on a dress, and you basically do the dress in 2 panels. So basically what I had to do with the dress, I had to frog it, because, well, the last panel that I was working on, which I was devastated because I thought that I was going to be done with this dress and I'd be wearing it and it'd be fun. But no. I think somewhere in the first panel or the second panel, I did not have the same amount of tension that was needed to keep going. So, oh my goodness. Sometimes tension will make or break a project. And that's one thing I learned with crocheting. Sometimes you need a little less tension. Sometimes you need to ease up on the hook. Yes, the hook size matters. Size does matter. Don't let anyone tell you different. I'm kidding. But no. Sometimes the hook size does matter. Like for example with this project, I'm bringing this one up a lot because this is the one that's in my face. Right now I'm using a 7. This one, I feel like the pattern's a little bit more flexible. It depends on what you're looking for. But I'm using a 7. And this is the kind of result I'm getting with a 7. So yes, it's I'm not using a whole lot of tension here, but also the hook size matters in the sense of how distant my stitches are and how high my stitches are if I'm doing like a double crochet or a half. So yes, tension matters, but also the hook size matters as well, depending on the feel or depending on what you're trying to go for in a specific project. So that's one thing, tension. Oh my goodness, it will make or break a project. But another thing that I have come to learn in my many hours of crocheting is overconsumerism. Now, when you start to crochet in the beginning, you're excited. You have this glint of light in your eyes. You're just like, I want to do it all. I want to make everything. So what happens is that you find a pattern, you find a project, and you're just like, ooh, I don't have yarn for that. Let me go buy the yarn. And then it doesn't help. It doesn't help that Joann's has coupons galore. It doesn't help that sometimes Michael's be having the sales on the yarn. It doesn't help. So sometimes as a beginner, it's super tempting to want to buy like bags and bags and bags of yarn. I will show you, oh my goodness, I will show you the bags of yarn that I have collected in my not even 1 year pilgrimage with crocheting. I can't dig it out now because it's in a spot that I really don't want to grab it and dig it up. But I have this bag. It's a clear bag, probably about this high and probably this wide. I filled it up to the brim with yarn. And some of this yarn I haven't touched. Some of this yarn, I don't even know what it looks like, but I have so much. And yes, it's fun to stock up on yarn. Yes, it's fun to, oh, there's a new project I want to start and I feel like I need a different color to add to my collection. But honestly, I feel like as a beginner, it is super tempting to give into the overconsumerism of this craft, but I implore you, don't give into it. Even with me, I mean, yes, sometimes I do a lot of unboxings, but do what makes sense for you and your pockets. Like, yeah, subscription boxes are fun every once in a while when you're kind of like, I want to try something new and I want to learn a new skill, or I just want to make something different that I wouldn't pick for myself. But sometimes, I mean, there's so much out there and there's so many like things yelling at you to buy them. At the end of the day, sometimes you just need to press pause and really think about, be a mindful consumer and really think about, do I need this new ball of yarn? You know? So it's that too. But honestly, I feel like, and that's not even, because I also have more yarn in storage because we went through a move recently. Well, I wouldn't even say recently. A year really isn't recent. But we went through a move. And that's just the yarn I have here. I have more yarn in storage, but that's besides the point. We're getting off track. That's besides the point. But basically all I'm saying here is that as a beginner, it's going to be very tempting to want to buy, you know, all these different balls of yarn, wanting to buy these other different gadgets and things like that. But at the end of the day, I really feel like it's important not to just, you know, spend. It's very tempting. It's very tempting to want to indulge and to spend all the monies on your new craft. But just try to pace yourself and try to be one of those people that I'm not buying more yarn until I'm ready for another project. Which leads me into my next point and my next thing that I learned as a beginner crocheter. Finishing your projects before you move to the next one. It sounds so dumb, it sounds so obvious, but when you're starting a new thing, it's like, you know what it's like. It's like a new relationship. Everything's blossoming, everything's amazing. You're wanting to discover all the new things about that person, you know? That's kind of the same thing with crocheting. It's like, you want to learn all the things, you want to do all the cool stuff. You're like, ooh, I like that beanie, I'm gonna make it. And it's just like, you know, because most of my time I spent crocheting at work. So let me set the scene for you. I worked at a call center. So most of my time was spent waiting for calls, or even while I'm on the phone with people, I don't know what to do with my hands. And sometimes if, you know, obviously you're doing your job, but there are some times people are a little long-winded and you're just like, all right. But you know, I worked at a call center, so most of my time was spent kind of just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen. And basically, I'm just like, you know, I'm working on this one project. It's starting to, you know, it's starting to get repetitive, but ooh, look at that. There's a pattern for a blanket. Let's get started on that. And so easily, because you're in one spot doing one thing for so long. What happened to me when I was working at the call center is that I would be doing multiple projects at once. So there was a point in time I was working on a sweater. Didn't finish the sweater because I'm still kind of stuck. Basically, it was a puff stitch flower sweater. Right? So I made all these little puff stitch flowers, and at some point I was going to connect them, but turns out that was probably not the best way to go about it. I should have just done a continuous stitch to connect them. But yeah, I was doing that, and then when I got stuck with that one, I kind of threw it away. Well, not even threw it away. I kind of threw it in a bag, and I was like, I gotta get back to it. But then I saw another pattern for a dress, so I was just like, ooh, let's get started with that. And you get where I'm going with this. The patterns and the unfinished projects began to accumulate and build up to a point where I just have like 5 unfinished projects. So as a beginner, it's so tempting to want to start something new when you get stuck on something old, and then you just kind of throw it in a bag and like, I'll get back to it. But sometimes you don't, and it starts to accumulate, and now you are super mega stressed for no reason. So that's one thing that I've learned, that it's really important to, at least for me, to finish a project before you move on to something else. It's not worth the headache, it's not worth the stress, and sometimes it's just better to just kind of pace yourself, which is the next thing that I'm going to move into. It's super, hyper, extremely important to pace yourself. Not just when it comes to starting new projects, but just when it comes to knowing when it's time to move on to something else, or knowing when it's time to, okay, maybe this is a little too much too soon. Like, it's so easy for you to get wrapped up in the fact that, oh, I want to learn everything there is to learn about crocheting and learning everything there is to know about this new craft. And sometimes you take on too much too soon, and it becomes overwhelming. And what I've learned in my many hours. It's just that sometimes it is important and it's great and it's good to pace yourself and know when you are just absorbing too much all at once. So sometimes pacing yourself, giving yourself a day to kind of be away from it sometimes can help. Because sometimes there are times when you get overstimulated and you're just like, wow, I can't get through this. I don't know what's going on with this pattern. And you start to beat yourself up about it, and then it becomes a whole thing. But, oh, sorry. There was a sneeze coming. Oh, no, it didn't come out. Good gracious. I felt the sneeze coming and it didn't come out. But sometimes it is just important to know when you have to step away from something, especially when you get stuck on a pattern and you're just like, I don't know what to do. Back to that puff stitch flower sweater. I might pop a picture up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Because to this day, I wanted to finish that pattern. I think I started it sometime last year in May, and I had the thought that if I start in May, when it starts to get cold, I'll be able to wear this sweater. And it's so freaking cute. Oh my gosh. But I never finished it. And I think the only thing that made me kind of stuck on this project is just basically how to connect them, because I've already made all 50 whatever of these, little flowers, and it was just trying to connect it to where it's not going to come apart. So I'll even show you the progress that I got. I got really far along before I just called it a quits, and I was just like, I need to figure out another way to do this. But even with that pattern, I started it, and I was like one of those, I wouldn't say I was a semi-beginner, because that doesn't even make sense. I guess I was kind of an advanced beginner, where I was just like, I recognize all the stitches in this pattern. I guess I can start it. But there are so many things I didn't know going into that pattern, and it could have saved me a lot of headache, a lot of money, a lot of energy that was spent putting into this project. And I feel like when you really know where you are in crocheting and kind of pace yourself and not be so overzealous in moving on to the next thing, things can really flow a little bit differently for you. And I really feel like the last thing that I learned as a beginner, most of your time as a beginner, you're not making your own patterns. You're not kind of free-balling or free-handing a lot of the things that you work on. Most of the time, you are looking for a pattern. You're looking for something to do, and you're looking on how to execute certain things. Not just, oh, that looks like something I could do. How many stitches is that? You're not really doing that as a beginner. So the next thing that I learned as a beginner really was about purchasing patterns. As an artist, because I am an artist, as an artist, I love promoting, I love helping, and I love bringing up artists, right? Like promoting and, incentivizing and really putting money into and throwing love into artists, right? Because the people that make these patterns, they are truly artists, and it's hard sometimes to get your art out there and for people to appreciate it. That's what it is. I love to appreciate art. I love to appreciate artists, right? So yes, for me, it's just common sense that if I see something online, I'm just like, ooh, where's the pattern? That I would spend and invest money into that. However, sometimes as a beginner, you see a lot of these patterns and you're just like, ooh, I want to buy that, I want to purchase that, I want to do that, I want to do that. And then you kind of have a stockpile of patterns that you've purchased and you haven't even looked at them for months. And I think that's one thing that I've run into, because I'm a bit of a sucker. I love appreciating and throwing love into artists, because it's not easy. Making it as an artist in this world in general, it's not easy, and it's not easy for you to get people to appreciate what you do and what you love, right? So for me, I just was like, this person put a lot of effort into writing this pattern. I'm gonna purchase it. And one thing that gets you is that patterns aren't super expensive. probably one pattern would probably be $3. But that $3 adds up, and that kind of leads into the same point of overconsumerism. Yes, you want to appreciate and give flowers when flowers are due. However, you as yourself, as a consumer, as an educated consumer, you have to know when enough is enough. Because yes, I always feel guilty when I find a pattern for free, not knocking those free patterns, because some people do give rights to these big websites for them to allow us to consume the pattern for free. That's different. That's completely different. We do not endorse stealing. We do not endorse stealing from artists because they work hard. But sorry, I'm not going back and forth from my camera into my computer or my phone, because my phone is connected to my camera and I'm able to see myself on my camera, but it was getting annoying going back and forth. Besides the point, we're getting back to where we need to be. But basically all I'm saying is that there are some times when consuming a pattern for free is okay, and I'm not here to knock people that do that, but all I'm saying is it kind of leads into that same point of overconsumerism. You need to know what makes sense for you in your life. And I feel like what I've been doing is I would see a lot of cool things and then I'd purchase them, and then I'm not really looking at that pattern. I haven't done anything with it, and here I am 50 patterns deep, and I've probably finished 2. So that's another thing to consider, and another thing that I've learned as a beginner. But there's so many things, oh my goodness, there's so many things that I've learned about crocheting, and I learned about myself crocheting. I never thought that I would be, I don't know, I didn't think that crocheting was a hobby that would challenge your mind the way it does, because crocheting is really relaxing for me, and I am, and still I have and am, a over anxious person. There's sometimes where my mind just races and thinks about things that just don't make sense. But I really feel like crocheting has put me in a headspace that has kind of calmed those jitters, especially when I was working at a call center, and sometimes you'll get those calls where it just seems like it's never ending. If you know, you know. Let me know if you work at a call center and what your feelings were. But when you work at a call center, sometimes what happens is you get these calls and they really, really test your patience as a human being. And sometimes when you get those calls, what happens is I would take to crocheting if it gets a little long-winded, and it really helps me to settle my nerves and get those jitters out, because sometimes you'll be on the phone and you'll literally be shaking. I've had so many calls where I'm literally physically shaking because the call is just it's so nerve-wracking. But I really feel like through crochet I have been able to calm the noise in my head and really be able to relax a little bit. So as a whole, crocheting as a hobby has really kind of centered me in a way that I was not expecting at all. So I say all this to say that I've only been doing this for probably about a year or 2. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, and I really want to be one of those people that I take what I learn through crocheting and feed it into you. Let's make this a community, a safe spot, a safe place that we can talk about the things that we love about crocheting, and talk about the things that, make us a little like on edge sometimes. Because that's what crocheting is all about. At least it was for me. It's been something to center me and make me feel like myself. But yeah, it was just a quick, how to, or a quick what I learned. And maybe through my mistakes and through what I've learned, maybe you learn something. Maybe you become the person that doesn't participate in the overconsumerism. I think that's what most of this video was about. Overconsumerism. I feel like this world and just YouTube in general, it just seems like we feed into the overconsumerism and feed into, oh, I need that, I need that, I need that. But at the end of the day, do we really need it? But no, I feel like through my mistakes, you can learn, and through my shortcomings, you can, you know, don't do the things I do. Or maybe you feel like, you know, oh, the way that she is learning and the way that she is going is similar to where I'm at in life. And maybe you see yourself in that way as well. So who knows? I don't know. I thought it was a cool video, something to kind of talk about as a beginner, and what I've learned and what I've realized, and just things I've been noticing through crocheting. But I feel like this video, I was talking a lot. There's a lot happening in this video. But yeah, I feel like with this channel, I want to know what you guys think. There's a lot of us here, and I know there's a lot of you guys watching and not subscribing. What are you doing? But let me know what you think. Let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the future. What kind of projects you want me to get into. What things you want me to talk about. If you have any good anime recommendations, drop them down below. We are all for good anime recommendations here. Let me know what you're watching. Let me know what kind of projects you're working on. What is something that really gravitates for you in this video? What clicks for you in this video? Something that you've learned as a beginner. Yeah, so let's get it going. But what you do need to do is like this video. It's really good for the algorithm. And subscribe if you vibe with what's going on here, and hit a bell. We're not really getting into that consistent rhythm. I feel like Sunday might be the day that we just upload videos just because. But yeah, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you later. Bye.